Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. Topic today is about market power or monopoly and monopsony power in particular. Market power is the ability of a firm to set price level higher than its marginal cost in the case of monopoly, or set price level lower than its marginal value in the case of monopsony. There are factors affecting market power, resulting in a varying degree of a market power possessed by a single firm. We'll be talking about it from the basic concept of output determination and price setting by both monopolies and monopsonies until how it gives rise to a social cost. Let's begin with monopolies output and price decision. When we're talking about competitive firms, we distinguish market demand and demand facing the competitive firm. In monopoly case, however, there is no such difference anymore. Since monopolist firm is the only seller in the market, market demand is demand for the monopolist. Let's recall the revenue equation here. To find the marginal revenue, we may start differentiating the revenue first. Revenue is directly affected by price and quantity, thus its differential is like this. Dou R, dou P is Q, dou R, dou Q is P, so we get this. Marginal revenue is additional revenue resulting from additional output produced, or the R, the Q. Here are the information we need. In monopoly case, unlike in competitive market, marginal revenue is not the same with price level. In competitive market, dP/dQ is 0 because output of competitive firm cannot affect price, while in monopoly market, the negative demand price correlation does exist. With negative number here, marginal revenue must be less than price level. The linear diagram then may look like this. With general linear inverse demand function is expressed like this, slope of marginal revenue is always twice slope of price level. Now, how about the optimal output determination and price setting in monopoly case? Basically, it's about profit maximization. Here is how we derive the condition. After we come up with this, then marginal revenue must be equal to marginal cost. Diagrammatically, it will now look like this. Marginal revenue is marginal cost is here, resulting in this level of quantity needs to be produced by monopolists, and eventually returning to the market demand. This level of quantity makes monopolies to set the price level here. Well, there are many cases of monopoly. Two of them are this. In whichever case, my suggestion is to write the objective function clearly. I myself don't suggest you to just equalize MR and MC unless you understand the logic, especially in different situations like this. In multi-plant firm case, the monopolist has more than one factory to produce the same output. What makes it different to the profit function? The profit function now will look like this. To make it clearer, just check this. The two-factory case, profit is affected by Q1 and Q2, not single Q anymore. But please notice Q1 and Q2 are the same product but produced in different factories. That is why Q1 and Q2 can be summed up to get Q level or total Q. Revenue is similar to profit. Then cost, since the firm has two factories, the cost function of the two factories differ. Total cost is the summation of the two cost functions here. Then the rest, remember in math, the chapter of optimization without constraint with more than one choice variable case. Just find all the first partial derivatives of the objective function, profit, with respect to the choice variables, namely Q1 and Q2. Then you will get definitely the solution. Price discrimination is similar. You can compare the profit function with that in multi-plant case. We'll talk further about it more specifically later. From the previous slide, we know monopoly price can be obtained by substituting the optimal output to the inverse demand function. We now want to see how monopoly pricing is compared with competitive pricing. Remember, in competitive market, competitive price is equal to firm's marginal cost and marginal revenue. For monopolies, let's return to this optimal condition. Remember again how we derive marginal revenue here. With some modification, we get this, and this expression is 1 per elasticity of demand. So finally, we get this and this. Monopoly price is expressed like this, and since price elasticity of demand is always negative, the denominator will be between 0 and 1. Then monopoly price must be bigger than marginal cost, not equal like in competitive market case. How different the monopoly price and the marginal cost is what we call the learner degree of monopoly power. Here how we get it. The value is positive. The bigger the value, the bigger the degree of the monopoly power. The diagram on the left best illustrates the situation. For monopsonies, it's just mimicking the monopoly case, but since we now in buyer's perspective, the concern is not between revenue and cost, but instead between buying value and expenditure. So here we go, we have the expenditure function up until the derivative, which is the marginal expenditure. Since now the P per dQ is representing the price-supply correlation, the value is positive. That's why P is not equal to marginal expenditure, or to be more precise, monopsony price is smaller than its marginal expenditure. Profit maximization of monopsonies is like this. With this, we're now equalizing marginal value and marginal expenditure. The diagram will look like this. Monopsonies equalizes MV and ME here, then getting the level of output it demands in the market, and accordingly get the price level, which obviously is lower than its marginal value. Okay, and here I will leave it to you to comprehend. It is just mirroring the explanation for monopoly case. Let's turn now our attention on the social cost of both monopoly and monopsony. Recall the concept of deadweight loss when talking about government intervention in competitive market case. Bear it in your mind, this one, the most efficient condition in a market is at competitive market equilibrium. Therefore, anything shifting from the competitive equilibrium will result in inefficiency. Look at this diagram. Competitive market diagram is at the intersection of marginal cost and marginal price or average revenue. It will give the maximum total surplus to the society. However, in monopoly market, quantity is lower and price is higher here. So, surplus is lower for consumer and higher for the monopolist. Unfortunately, area B and C are just gone, not even received by the monopolist. That is what we call the social cost or the deadweight loss. How big is the social cost or the deadweight loss? It depends on how big the monopoly power is. Look at this diagram. Then compare the area of the two triangles here. From this learner degree equation, we can easily observe how the monopoly power is getting bigger. The equations applies actually not only for monopoly case, but also for any competition in which the sellers have market or monopoly power. In monopoly case, other than things like an antitrust law that prohibits monopoly, government may adopt this ceiling price policy. In monopoly case like in this diagram, for sure price should be set lower than the monopolist price level PM. But once the minimum price is set, it certainly affects the demand and marginal revenue of the monopolist. For instance, when minimum price is set at P1, then demand curve facing the monopolist is now this. And as a consequence, the marginal revenue curve is now this purple line. So, monopolists will set the quantity at MR equals MC and at price level of P1. And the question is it the best policy for the society? Well, the answer is no, because the price can be set lower until P2, which is when demand intersect marginal cost, or when price equals marginal cost, just like in competitive market. Lowering price further to P3, for instance, reduces output to Q3 and causes a shortage Q prime 3 minus Q3 here. So setting minimum price equals MC is the best. However, if the monopolist is a natural monopolist, it experiences economies of scale. Therefore, the firm's AC curve as well as its MC curve are declining like this. In this situation, setting minimum price equals marginal cost is impossible, because at QC here, AC here is bigger than price. Okay, meaning what? This area, AC times QC, or the total cost, is bigger than this area, price times QC, or the total revenue. So it is impossible, because it would be a profit loss for the monopolist. Then the possible level of minimum price is when the minimum price equals to average cost, or the firms is incurring zero economic profit for because of this policy. Okay, and here again, I just leave it to you to comprehend. It's again just mirroring the monopoly case. Okay, so that's all about monopoly and monopsony power that I can explain at the moment. I may give further explanation after you do some calculation exercise. Thank you very much for your attention. See you again in different video and different topic of microeconomics. We'll be talking soon about the example of a firm exercising its market power, which is called the price discrimination. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.